Live. Welcome. Sorry about the wait, you guys. We were having some Skype issues. Skype is not the most robust platform, so thanks for waiting while we got all that figured out. Super excited for you guys to be here tonight. We are going to be talking to my good friend Ashley from Mamasaysnamaste, and we're going to be talking all about how to get along, how to navigate family travel peacefully. This was something that I super struggled with. I know all of you watching, all my dedicated listeners, you guys know my big struggles that I've had. So I'm super excited to bring Ashley on tonight. And also, just a little side note, she's on her phone, but her camera looks amazing. So I'm just so excited to bring on this high quality iPhone, I'm assuming. She's laughing in the background. So awesome. Everybody's here. Heidi's here. Colleen, hey. Haven't seen you in a while. Jerry's here. Hey, Jerry. Jerry says everyone in my RV gets along just fine. Maybe because there's no one else here. I don't even have a dog. Yeah. If you guys remember, Jerry was on back in February, I think, and he's got a ton of books. So if you haven't checked him out, you could literally just Google his name and buy his books. He's awesome. Anyway, Heidi says we love you, Liz. I love you too, Heidi. Thanks for coming on, guys. So since we were late, I'm just going to jump right into it. Tonight, like I said, we've got Ashley. She's coming at us with some family travel tips, whether that's with your spouse, your kids, whatever. And I first met Ashley online through something else. You guys know sometimes I work for Jeff Goins. Somebody was asking for a recommendation, and I knew I had met her father at a conference one time, and people kept saying, you should reach out to her. You know, we have a lot of connections. I was like, yeah, you know. And finally, we made the connection somehow on Facebook. We met at a conference this year and just really hit it off. She let me sleep in her camper when it was freezing, when I was tent camping back in March, if you guys remember that. She texted me. It was like 9 o'clock at night. I was just about to fall asleep in my tent, freezing my little toes off. And she was like, what are you doing? I have a truck camper. Come sleep in it. And I said, well, Mama didn't raise no fool. So I packed my little bag and made my way over to her campsite. So let's welcome her on. Hey, Ashley, how you doing?
Hello, I'm great. And I'm sitting in the same camper, but it's all painted and all fancy now.
Yeah.
I had to do it to honor you. We're back in the same truck camper, which is my office, also known as Bug.
Bug? I love that.
Yeah, because we bug out every once in a while. Just take this on a weekend trip. So.
That's awesome. So I'm going to hand it over to you because it's pouring down rain right now. So I'm going to mute my microphone. Tell us your RV story, just a brief story, how you got into it. And also share more about that truck camper because I know it's a really cool story.
Okay. So my family and I have been on the road since October of 2016. My husband and I have been married for 15 years. We have a 12-year-old, 9-year-old, and 6-year-old, all girls. And we also have a dog, also female. So my husband can hang with the betta fish, which we do actually have on our travels as well because it's the only male in the house. So we've been on the road since October of 2016, kind of made that decision to not wait for one day, but do it now with our family, and haven't looked back, and are actually, I'm going to tell you about our model now, but we actually are possibly looking at another new setup right now, because I've come to find out some of us really love upgrading and changing RVs, because I'm going to change things anyway. So instead of just changing the same 240 square feet, sometimes it is fun to move things around. So the setup we have right now, though, is I have a 29-foot travel trailer, and it's got quad bunks in the back. So that's where my girls sleep. And then what we were dealing with, though, was that in a 29-foot travel trailer, there's not much space for me to be able to do things like this without making everybody in the house either leave or me sit in a truck or something like that. So we started looking at alternative options. So Nathan refers to us as a bisectional fifth wheel because we decided to get a pop-up truck camper. So we have a pop-up truck camper on our truck, and then we pull our ultralight trailer behind it. And It's actually been pretty fabulous, especially like what just happened with Liz at the rally. You know, it's our introverts hub at rallies, where it's the place that all introverts go to recharge. And it also is a place that we can offer for company that comes and everything else, just like the beautiful guest house, where they don't necessarily have to be all up in your space, which can be really tight in these RV setups. So that's a little bit as to where we are at this point.
Yeah, that's so funny that you, what did he say? A bisectional fifth wheel?
I have got to send you a video. He did a whole rant on I'm a bisexual fifth wheel. I try to go with all the LGBTQR R15 regulations.
That's so funny. That's so funny. And what attracted me to that idea was, you know, that you work in it. It's kind of like an office, because like you said, you know, without somebody having to leave, to be quiet, like literally Ed and Chelsea are at the movies. They're going to see Toy Story 4 for the 4th week in a row. Because that's like that's their thing. When it gets out of theaters, I think Chelsea's going to have a conniption. But, you know, that's what they have to do. And, you know, it's really like a family affair, this show. Like, usually I'm the only one on it, but it takes like the whole village to pull it off. And yeah, I would love to have a truck camper or even a shed at this point, because we're not traveling till March, you know, something. So I love that idea. It's so smart.
There are a lot of approaches, and I've actually, you know, we chose to do a pop-up camper, but just in thinking about that, like sometimes you have to think a little outside the box of what you would use. But we have friends that have, you know, one of those clamshell tents, and that's where they choose to do it. And the deal is, and just kind of on the whole navigating the family thing, is having a kind of a hard line as to this is work time and this is a sacred space for work and things like that, has really helped to keep my sanity as we travel and be able to be either fully present with work or fully present with family. So having some form of a separation, whether it's a tent or a clamshell or your minivan or truck while you're in the middle of it, or a pop-up truck camper, it can really help to just kind of separate that out a little bit.
Yeah, my friend Camille Attell always says that she wants an autonomy vehicle. So they need to, you know, like change their tow. I think they have a CRV right now, or a Saturn or something. And she's like, I want a van where I can just go and be myself for just a little bit and then come back to the rig. And I think it's when you are full-timing for a while, you said you've been since 2016. I feel like it becomes more and more important to have some sort of space.
Well, it goes into the whole family dynamics and how you namaste happy on the road, because when you do this full time with your family, you switch you're not on vacation mode anymore. This is your lifestyle. And so you have to figure out, how are you going to make this work? It's not just about seeing all of the great things and, you know, going on your road trip adventures, but it's when you're going to have downtime, when you're going to have you time, when you're going to have partner time, if you've got a partner, when you're going to devote the time to recharge, as opposed to just being go, go, go. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of us full-timers learn the hard way in that first year.
Yeah.
Not slowing down enough and taking in those times to recharge, for sure.
Yeah, and something that I learned from you and have really started to discover for myself just in the last month, because we want to hit the road again, but we don't want it to be like it was in 2018. It was a disaster. My husband and I didn't know how to communicate with each other. We were a military family, so we weren't together a lot. And we thought we had this great relationship because we were always getting along, but it was because we were always reuniting. So it was much different. And I think now that we want to hit the road again, you know, we're doing more research, we're listening to people like you, and so something that I know you talk a lot about and you're really well versed and trained in is the DISC profiles. And so can you tell us more about kind of like personality types and how and why it's so important to learn them when you're traveling with people?
Yes, it is so, so critical. And so with my work, Mama Says Namaste, I'm a marriage and family coach. And I also work in my father's business, 48 Days, working with entrepreneurial families. So I kind of work on the business side and the home side. And with everything, hands down, I use the DISC assessment. Not because that's the answer and not because it's the end all be all. A lot of people right now swear by the Enneagram is a big one. There's the Strength Finders one, Colby, Myers-Briggs. There's a lot out there. I use DISC because it's the simplest, and because I have DISC assessments I can use for 5-year-olds, and my 6-year-old can understand and identify personality styles at her age because of DISC. But the point of using it is not so much to say I am this label, but it's simply to open the door to self-awareness. And so that's what I use it for. It's not as an excuse. It's to help to kind of affirm and validate what your strengths are, to kind of understand what triggers a negative reactive behavior, and how you best stay motivated. So just super quick, the easiest way to do it is the same way I do with my kids, and that's relating it to animals. So you've got a high D as like a lion or like an eagle. They're very take charge. They are very direct, results oriented, and very highly driven and big visionaries. Then you have your I, who is like an otter or a peacock, and so they are very like they love to be the center of attention. Those are the life of the party, the social animals, and they're also the big visionaries.
Huh. Can you guess which one Liz Wilcox is?
Also tend to be the ones that wear the colorful clothing, that like to add a lot of humor in, and like to tell a lot of stories, all of that. Then you have the two other sides are a little bit more of the implementers and the task-focused people, and they are an S personality style. Although they love people, they tend to pull back a little bit. They're a little bit more reserved. S's are like a golden retriever or a dove. So you think the peacemaker and the ones who are looking for that full harmony. They may be somebody who recharges by solitude or a nap or reading a book, as opposed to being out in front center. And then your C is like a beaver or an owl. Think of somebody who pays a lot of attention to details, crosses all their T's and dots their I's, and they love logical, systematic, detailed, analytical. What are the facts? How are things done in the past? So that's your quick thing, and we are all a combination of it. So if I were to pull every adjective to describe every personality style, we all have them. So it's not, again, about just identifying one as your one and only label, but understanding how if you have a tendency to gravitate toward like that high I personality style, recognizing that to say, okay, now I know that this is my tendency. And if I am dealing with somebody pulling back, maybe that has to do because, rejection is a big thing for a high I personality style. And so you start to look at that and say, okay, now I recognize it's not me. Maybe it's them. Maybe they need a break because they're more introverted than I am. And I don't have to take this as a personal rejection. So simply understanding the personality styles helps you to navigate, how you can live in your strengths and you really pull out the best side of who you are, but it also helps you to have grace and understanding for others. And that's why it's so critical, both in business and at home, to understand that.
Yeah, we've got some real big Discs fans. Someone says, oh my gosh, Dan Miller changed my and my husband's lives. That's wonderful. Johnny says DISC is an acronym, and then Heidi explains it. She says she's DISC certified as well. So that's really cool. And I love that you said about, what'd you say? Maybe, so I am high D and I, obviously. I like to be the center of attention. Yes, rejection is something that I'm learning that I don't really like. I'm finally understanding that. And it was, as I'm learning this, and my husband's very S and C. We just did this, I'm not even kidding, maybe a week ago, maybe 6 days ago. I think it was last Wednesday. And it was like yin and yang, the way that ours, almost complete opposites of the measurements. And I just burst out laughing because I was like, I finally see, it's not about me. It's about you and your personality, and how that differs from mine. And something that he always says when I'm upset, I think he's rejecting me, I suppose. And I'm like, well, what did I do? And he's like, it's not about you. I just need a break. And like literally what you just said is it's just so right. But
man, I did a whole podcast episode on opposites attract, because that so often is the case.
Yeah.
And joke about my husband, the joke is he's the dream crusher. He's not the dream crusher, but here I am as a high ID. I have these big visions. And what does he do? His desire to support me as an S. He wants to support me. So what does he do? Pokes holes in every single thing that are all the details I didn't actually consider. And so he's trying to help me, but it's it'd be very clear that I could take offense to that as somebody, well, you're just being negative about this. You're just trying to sabotage
you and your research.
Right. So recognizing it can definitely help with those times of defensiveness and frustration, where you may have somebody who you're viewing as that Debbie Downer, where if they're looking at it as, I want to support you so much, I want to help you cover these bases that maybe you didn't think about.
Yeah, totally. And I had that written down, actually, because I think I've listened to part of the Opposites Attract. And so I wrote, where did I write down? Oh, I said people, when they hit the road, they find that they're probably a little less alike than they thought. Right. I mean, that's what I thought. I knew my husband and I were very different, obviously. But I didn't realize just how different we are in every single detail, right? And so how do you navigate that once you know your DISC assessment and things like that? How do you navigate with someone, whether it's your spouse or a child that's just completely different from you? How do you navigate that on the road to make sure it's successful?
Well, okay, so the first thing I do, and this is what we recommend for every family, is to start with a family vision. And what I mean by that, and I have a kind of an email series that walks you through the steps, but it's really just, even if you have really young kids, for us, we rolled out a big old sheet of paper and we just started writing down words. We drew pictures. We could take things out of magazines. Think of the vision board deal. But it was, what do you think of when you think of family? What do you want our family to be? And so we did this big thing with our children before we left. And then we started to look at what are the common themes. Well, okay, 4 of us did mountains. So we know we want to have mountains as a part of our travels. And we all wrote the word explore. We all wrote the word love. And so we started to look at what things were important to us on our travels and what was important to us as a family. And we came up with a family vision that is not a long manifesto. We didn't want to go with a manifesto or something that was so lengthy we wouldn't remember it. We boiled it down to 6 words, and that's explore, respect, listen, connect, learn, and love. And so that became our mantra. And I always encourage people, when you're creating a family vision, the whole point is so that everybody has a voice. Everybody kind of becomes unified as to what's critical and what's important for their family before they even leave, so that you can always reference back to that. And that's something that you've agreed on together. Think about in the business world, writing a contract is a third party, this sheet of paper that says, okay, did we do this and this, as opposed to it just being, well, you said this versus you said that. So when we went through that kind of was our first thing to start with. This is our family vision. This is what's critical to us, what we want to do. And then the second thing into it was taking into account our different personality styles. We started to look at how can we utilize our strengths on the road and support one another in the process. I end my podcast every week with the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. So, for example, my high C daughter, who is great at details, when we get to a place, she handles the setup of all of the aesthetically pleasing things. She's a great artistic look, so she handles a shelf that's all about the aesthetics. And so she has a job. She knows what her role is, and she feels like an important part of the family.
I love that.
My husband and I, As much as we are great communicators, there are some things that I swear, I don't know what it is, but navigation does not work with us at all. I compute it completely different than he does. Since he's the one driving, he's the one who it ended up becoming something where it was a stressor. I'd book all of these campgrounds and not once look at a Google map to see, if we were going over 5 mountain passes. When he took it over and he handled that, I had to let go of that. And so that's his role. His job is that. So when we started assigning roles for specific people, where, when we started to sense there's a tension point here, okay, let's look at who has a strength in this, and maybe we need to step back and honor them, like give them grace to do it. As a D, a big thing for Ds are need for control. So it can be hard to step back, but it is so, so valuable to do that. So yeah, so assigning roles and creating a vision were our best first steps in ensuring that we could really have a lot of fun in the process.
I love that. And that was another thing I wanted to bring up was the family vision, because I think that's so important. It is like a business, right? You want your family to run smoothly. Obviously you're not in it for profit, but I feel like you're in it for love and fun and all those things that you said. And it's so valuable to write it down, to work together, to create something that's just for you and just for your family, just for your, if it's just you and your spouse, something where it's like, we're in this together, something that's bonding you as a family. I love that.
I'm sorry. Also, you want to just communicate the small stuff, because if we have unspoken expectations, all that's going to do is just build that resentment. So if my expectation is we're going to hit Disney and New York City and LA, and my husband's idea is we're going to camp on BLM land and not talk to a single person for 2 months, we're at complete odds with it. We need to share what our dreams are, what our expectations are. And then when we're on the road, communicate the small stuff. Sometimes for those personalities that don't like conflict, you don't say anything, and you let things slide until they ultimately build up. And all of a sudden it's not a molehill, but you really are dealing with a big mountain of issues. So communicating the small stuff along the way, whether that's what your expectations are or just things that are going on in your mind, is so, so critical as a family.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you an example of when things went wrong. That's what I'm good at, right? So we were in Michigan, and I was working a lot. We just kind of hit the road, still 6 months in, still figuring out our groove. And I said, today I just want to do something. I don't want to stay at the camp. Let's go out. Let's go to the zoo. It was the Detroit Zoo. I'm from Detroit. I was like, I want to take my daughter to the Detroit Zoo. It's something I loved as a little girl, and I think she will too. And so I asked my husband, hey, let's go to the zoo. Honestly, as a DI, I don't know if I asked. I just said, I just manifested it, and there we were in the car on the way to the zoo. And my husband's driving, and I notice he's getting tenser and, more tense and more tense as we're going. And gosh, we were almost there. We hit a little bit of traffic. Of course, we're in the city. And I just, what is your deal? We are going to the zoo. It is going to be fun. Like, what? I just feel this tension. And I don't know what happened, but eventually he just screamed, I didn't want to go. And we ended up having to pull over in some church parking lot. He had to walk away. And that was one of those aha moments where it's, we are not clearly communicating. There's a lot of miscommunication that led to us on the side of the road. I don't want to go to the zoo. And, and we went to the zoo, and it was one of the worst days of my life. I'm sure my daughter enjoyed it. She was, 3 at the time, mostly oblivious. But yeah, I felt personally responsible, because I do know I have a tendency to bulldoze, and I get what I want when I want it type of personality. And it wasn't until he was literally, poor guy, 6'5", exasperated, I don't want to go to the zoo, that I was like, oh wow, I didn't pick up on that. I'm sorry, you know. You want to turn around? We're like 2 miles away, you know, just drove 90 minutes. And, you know, it would have been totally fine to just go alone with my daughter. But it's just we weren't communicating properly. You know, he was thinking one thing, I was thinking another. We just were not meshing. So I do think it's just so important to learn about the personality styles. And it's just so eye-opening. It seems so silly, right? Like, I know who I am. I can tell who that person is. But just seeing it on paper, just like the family vision, just makes it so much clearer.
Well, and with your husband being that S personality, roughly 69% of the population is S. We have a lot of S's that, oh, no, I'm going to get the rain, too. I might have to bring you closer for me, too. A lot of the S personality styles they desire so much to support that they won't say anything, because if it's important to you, it's important to them. But ultimately, if you don't say anything, at some point, all of a sudden, him sitting in traffic, when he's not comfortable in there and around all of the people and all the craziness, the pressure gets to him, for sure. Okay, I'm going to run into my house where it's not so loud, because I need to get my husband to shut some curtains or some blinds in here. Hey, this is real life, right?
We're getting a real good shot. Here, let me, hey, everybody.
We'll move on to this side where we can talk a little bit easier.
We're changing scenes, guys. Changing locations. Do I need like a marker, you know, like set. That's so funny.
The fun of trying to make things like this work in RVs sometimes can be great. Other times we're juggling 8 children between 2 RVs and boondocking internet and rain. Yep.
My electricity has gone out during this where I have no internet, and I'm like, well, I was doing a show. Hang on, guys. Luckily, this is an easy crowd to deal with.
We appreciate your patience.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, communicating. It's important.
It is. And because we've communicated to the point that we can, I can just bark orders at my husband, him knowing that that's not the best way for me to treat it. But we've made enough deposits and investments that if I say, hey, can you go do the curtains and everything, there's an immediate action. And that's not just, you know, it's not just him doing what I want him to do, but us supporting one another. And we do the same thing with our kids. And we found that everybody listens and applies and respects each other so much more because we get each other.
Yeah.
I get when my kid acts out and I go, are you overwhelmed? Like, do you need some space right now? And she says, yeah, I do. And just recognizing that and acknowledging it, she's way more receptive to then doing what I need her to do, because she recognizes that the respect is a two-way street. And it's just as much me respecting her as her respecting me.
I love that. And for me, I've been learning a lot about myself this year. My word of the year is healthy. So I've been trying to have a more healthy relationship with others, with myself, and things like that. And so I find that even understanding myself better when I bark orders, you know, I can even just say, I know I'm barking this order, but it's really important to me right now. And so he just immediately gets it. More than like, why is she yelling at me? Like, I will literally say, I know I'm acting crazy right now, but I'm feeling very stressed and overwhelmed, and let me just walk away for 5 minutes. I'll be right back. And, you know, he's like, whoa, please go away. Like, yes, babe, yes.
And communicating those small things are just so important, for sure.
Right. What was the last thing? Oh, I love what you say on your podcast. You say, I wrote it down, chaos to clarity by understanding. And that's something I think it's just so true.
Yes, it is. And that's because it does. And that's what I want to do with families is kind of go from chaos and reaction mode, because we can spend our whole lives simply reacting to our kids because they will constantly be throwing curveballs at us. We can spend our whole lives reacting to others because, like Jerry said before, he's got it easy because it's just him. And he doesn't have any other opinions in his house. Well, I have 4 other opinions and feelings. 5 if you throw in my extremely vocal, temperamental dog. So between all of that, I have to figure out how am I going to navigate this. And the best way to do it is moving from that chaos and reaction to being intentional. So instead of just reacting, I am intentional. So we talk about with our kids before we go somewhere, okay, hey guys, we're in a crowded area. I expect you to stay with me. I need you guys to be right with me. Can we work together as a team? Being proactive instead of reactive makes all the difference in how your stress level is going to be and just honestly on how much you're going to enjoy your family.
Yeah, that's so true. You are so good. You are setting me up for all these questions I've written down. The last question I did have was, do you have any more tips? I know something you always say is being aware, being intentional, and, I find that to be so true. So do you have any more tips on how to do that when, you feel like everything's in chaos, you're traveling, you're not in... Your RV is a safe place, but, you might not be in a familiar place. Everything seems chaotic. What tips do you have for staying aware and intentional when it seems impossible to do so?
This is, again, going back to those personality styles because each of us needs something different. So a high D may need to mark off a win. I mean, for me, when I am feeling completely frazzled, and this works for a lot of personality styles, is to do a brain dump. Just like make a list of all the crap that's going on in your head. So you take that baggage out of your head. You quit carrying that weight, put it down on paper, and then pick one. Just pick one thing to do. And that one thing may be super small. And I have literally done it where it's like go to yoga class and I've already been just so I can check it off because I feel like I've accomplished something for the day. So having a sense of accomplishment really helps me. So if I'm super frazzled, I may go and get in hyper-focused work mode. Everybody stay away and I need to accomplish getting a blog post done or a podcast episode or something. For an I, it may be that opportunity to recharge, refresh, and be ready to come back may be a moment of going out to eat with a friend, hashing out your feelings and your emotions and talking with somebody. It's socializing and getting a recharge there so then you feel recharged to come back and assess the situation. For an S and a C, it's going to be, walking away, retreating, reading a book, taking a nap, things like that. So all of those are kind of ways to reset your mindset because we all need to have that opportunity to just reset. We talk about that with our kids. It's not a timeout. It's, do you need to reboot? And my 4-year-old, or at that time 4, she'd come up to me, I just need a reset. And she'd go sit in her room and be all mad and then come out perfectly fine. So we need to give ourselves those opportunities and then pick one thing. Pick something small that you can give yourself a win. We all need those little pats on the back, the little wins that say, okay, I did that at least. So that kind of helps to kind of start that process of moving out of the chaos and reaction into being intentional.
I love that. Colleen says, there are some days that I need all of the above.
Exactly. And a glass of wine too, just throw it all in. Give yourself those wins. Like give yourself the opportunity to do something you want just for you because you are going to be a better partner. You're going to be a better parent when you have a full cup and when you're not giving from a place of absolute depletion.
Yeah, so I just thought of earlier we were talking about, the DIs, sometimes it's like, it's all about me. And so even Friday night, my husband, so he had all last week off. He was helping me so much. I got so much work done. He and Chelsea, they had so much fun doing whatever they did. I didn't ask. But Friday night, he said, I need to go. I need to be with my friends. This has just been a lot. And I said, okay, bye. And then later he texted me and said he wanted to go visit a friend in Alabama. And my first reaction was, oh, you're leaving me. I feel so abandoned. Like I literally was like, what? I wanted to do this and that. And, and then I realized he needs to recharge, like you were just saying. He has just, he hasn't been with us all day, every day for 8 months. So it's, obviously going back to that is much different than being at school with a bunch of other bros all day. So,
Right.
It took all weekend for me to realize this is not about you, Liz. Relax. And I'm glad I'm glad that I was aware, understanding myself and him. I've been doing that work, that I said, yes, of course, go, have fun, recharge, because I knew he was going to come back, a much happier person than if I would have forced him to stay and to go, to Disney or something with us. He would have been miserable. But we have a great question here. Johnny asks, how do you handle someone who keeps changing their priorities on the road?
Ooh, that is it a child or an adult, first off?
An adult.
An adult that keeps changing their priorities. That, I think that really goes back to coming to an agreement on kind of what that family vision is from the beginning. And recognizing that it will change. I mean, changing priorities is going to happen because, we're ever growing. So even with the way that we teach our kids, we believe the world is our school and everyone is our teacher, and it's a lifelong approach. So as we get new insights, as we get new experiences, our things will change in some senses. So that's okay, but but there's a difference between oh man, I was on a coaching call earlier today, and they were talking about when you know what your passion is, then that becomes your true life's work. So jobs may come and go, but when you know your work, then you're never fired again, and you're never, you never lose that opportunity. So it's kind of, what is that ultimate family vision? What is something that is so much a core of what you two both in agreement want for your family? Stay true to that. If your priorities shift as far as wanting to focus on, you know, going to the mountains or going to 15 rallies in a row, those things are things you can negotiate by going back to that why. Well, does that really fit with what we want as a family? If we go toward that priority, does that give us the home life that we want? If your priority becomes work 24/7, is that reflecting the family life that you want? How can we make this work? So going into it with that, we are a family team. We all have a voice, we all have needs. So how does this work into the family as a whole, and kind of going back to that? I hope that kind of helps. I know that's, priorities can mean all kinds of different things, but going back to your why, as to, why you're choosing to do these travels, why you're choosing to be together as a family, why it's important to you, can be really important. And a lot of families have never discussed that. They've never even talked about, what does marriage look like? What does parenting look like? What do we want our marriage to look like, as opposed to simply reacting to the way our parents did, either wanting to duplicate it or wanting to do the exact opposite.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's so true. That's why Ed and I decided Ed should go to school and have some stability right now. And family travel obviously wasn't working out for me if it wasn't working out for him. And we had to just come back to, we are married. We got married on purpose. We had a child on purpose. All of this is our doing. Why are we doing this? And, how do we want it to change? So, Exploring the Local Life is asking, do you have a recommended DISC personality test, or where can someone find one?
Yes, I actually do. On my website, I so happen to have, I call them snapshots. It's the DISC personalities test, but I've got added in there some extra little elements for teens or for students, lifelong learners, I say, because it's really for anybody who wants to get kind of how they learn, for children, and then for parents or adults. And so they're called the Namaste Personality Snapshots, and they come along with a video where I really go into those fears, those things that trigger that reactive behavior as well. So on mamasaysnamaste.com is where I'd say.
That's awesome. And someone was asking earlier about your podcast and a link, and someone said, oh, I'm sure Liz put it in the description. I actually forgot to update this description, guys. So if you wait 5 minutes after the video, all those links will be there. I'm so sorry. That was the one thing, and then Ashley and I were having difficulties, and I was like, oh, I forgot to update that when Jessica asked for the link. I was like, dang it. Anyway, this is another excuse me, really good question. When you need alone time, how do you prevent your spouse from feeling like you don't want to be around them, but you just need that time to recharge? The guilt is quite daunting.
Have them listen to the podcast on personality styles and needing space. So much of it is simply that it's recognizing that, I mean, I really would encourage you to do a personality assessment of some sort, because again, not as the label or the excuse, but sometimes it's helpful. I mean, this of course is my lowest end option, doing an assessment. Of course you can go into getting a coach, working with somebody else. It's the element of having a third party to kind of validate and say, this isn't just a horrible quirk of that person, but this is a legitimately studied personality that is where this person needs that. The person that usually needs to go away also tends to be a person who is a really big supporter. And after investing so much and giving so much and supporting, it's so critical. So, with Nathan, my husband, being that supportive role, he could just check out all the time. But because he's made so many deposits in everything in our family, and we've worked so much as a team, he'll say, hey, I'd really love to just go for a mountain bike ride. And I'm fully supportive of it, because I see that not as a rejection for me. I see that as an opportunity for me to give him joy, to give him a gift of something that he really enjoys, that he does on his own. So, helping, I guess the biggest thing is just, help your partner to just kind of see, understand a little bit more about what those personality styles are, and that space does not mean rejection. Space can flat out mean just space. And you can even open that door just by saying, what do you love to do for fun? Well, this is what I love to do. You love to go to a party. I love to be in a big open field and look at stars and not have anybody around me. And so kind of approaching it in that of just even like, what are those fun things, and seeing the differences where one might be around people and one isn't, is a great way to just kind of open that door to, my space doesn't mean your rejection.
Yeah, I love that. Colleen says, space doesn't mean rejection. That's gold. So, and that is true. That's something, when I got married, that was the hardest thing for me. I'd lived alone for a long time. I was very comfortable with myself. I became quite uncomfortable, not having that alone time, not having that. I'm very, I like to, I like to be alone. I like to think. I'm a thinker. And my husband would come home and I'd be sitting in the dark and he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I'm just thinking, I'm just growing. And he just thought that was so weird. And so the hardest thing for me was to teach him about myself, that that's time, that's not rejection, because he is a supporter, and he was, why aren't you letting me support you? Why can't I be with you, and let's be this power couple that is always together? And that's just not in me to be. And so I would also suggest to Colleen to just be patient. My husband didn't know any of this stuff. Like, he'd never heard personality test, and we've been married almost 6 years now, and he's just coming around to understanding the type of person I am versus him, and me too, because I'm a bulldozer, I'm a pusher, I want to be the best, and I want you to be the best, and let's do it together. I have a plan. So just be patient with each other. Just keep stating that space doesn't mean rejection. It means I need to recharge for you, and kind of trying to turn the tables to make them see that perspective. But definitely patience, and just dropping little hints about it.
And a lot of people are familiar with the love languages, and people have different ways of showing love and affection. And sometimes those ones that are really fearing that rejection respond really well to affirmative talk and gratitude. So it may be that another another opportunity is just to share your gratitude and your support for who they are and what they do. I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that my husband doesn't say something about thank you for being, for doing this, or for being you, or for whatever. And we share that gratitude with one another to show the appreciation. So then when we do need space, it's we've already filled their bucket with all kinds of great compliments and affirmations, so they don't feel as empty and alone when you're gone.
That's gold. And that's something that you say. I know you've talked about it in person with me, and I know it's been said on your podcast a lot that, filling the bucket, like giving so much of that love that when something comes up, when you need to be alone, have your space, whatever it is you need to recharge, it's not that rejection or insecurity because you're already so full of love. And that's something that we're doing too, the love languages. My husband actually, he came home one day. I was in shock. This is a little off topic. That's one of my slogans here on TVC Live.
You've got great stories though, and that's why people are attracted to you. It's great.
He came home, or he called me and he's telling me, oh, I'm sorry about this, that, the other. And I said, what has gotten into you? Like he was complimenting me, just being so nice and just saying like all these things he has realized. And he said, oh, well, today at school it was kind of slow. I read the Love Languages book. Have you ever heard of it? And I was like, oh, of course I've heard of it. But honestly, that's another great recommendation. Ever since he's read that, he's been so much more open about himself and, about his past relationships and why they might not have worked and how he wants to make this one work and all of this. So it's been great. And they also have an app. So there's an app for that. So Colleen, that might be a good one too, because Colleen said she took your dad's personality test about 15 years ago, but it sounds like they need to retake it as they've accumulated quite a bit of life mileage.
And
I love that.
That's a good point too, is people will say, is it the same always? And I say that, if you have a super confident 3-year-old who doesn't care what anybody else is doing, and they are very sure of themselves, and then you go through the whole life and you get to 93 and that person really has a good grasp of who they are, you'll see the same personality style. But through that, think about all the things that we have, all the big life changes, whether that's, puberty and teen hormones, or getting married, having a baby, getting a job, losing a job, creating a business, going on the road. All of these are transitional points where we may question who we are. We may be distant and not really know ourselves well, or be at a point of transition where maybe we're overcompensating and trying to be somebody we're not as well. So it is helpful to kind of go back and reassess. And with the love languages, with the profiles, and with all of these different things, it's kind of validation. It's affirmation to go, oh, I'm not crazy. We had an RV conference last year, and it was for these new families. And the biggest thing they got out of it, even though it was loaded with all kinds of content, the biggest thing that they got out of it was validation that they weren't just the only crazy ones out there, but there were other people that were doing this,
right,
that were actually sane and cool people, and they really loved it. So we need to have that validation that on how we tick. And so whatever resources you can pull for that, do that. Ultimately, the goal is to support your family and to find what helps you guys to understand each other and to communicate better together. And, I highly encourage families to invest in that. Invest in the process of making your lives better together, and do that. We're quick to invest in our businesses, but for family, it's like we'll spend money on Disney, but we don't spend any money to ensure that Disney is actually an enjoyable time and we're not at each other's
right.
Take the time to invest in your family so you actually do enjoy being around them.
Right. I love that. So we're going to have one more question, and then we're going to play a game real quick because I think it'll be fun. Johnny has a really good, interesting question. This is very Johnny. He says, I've had a DISC assessment before, and the questions never had a I couldn't care less option. Or this is what I would have chosen 50% of the time. This forced me to make bad choices, I feel. Any comment on that?
Oh yeah. We tend to struggle more on what's most like us because we're adaptable beings. Although, being the center stage at a party is not the thing that I choose to be. I don't want to be that all the time. I can easily do it. And so we waffle on what we can be because of that, because we can put on many hats. We tend to be way more concrete with what is least like us. I can say really quickly, oh, cautious and reserved. Nope, not me. It's an easy one. That tends to be, and when you do the different assessments do different things, but like the DISC assessment that I do, and that is one of the more common ones, has 3 graphs. And that second graph tends to be the one that's most true to who you are. And it's based on those things that are not you. So if you start waffling on, I could be this or I could be that, at least go with what you're not, and then pick the opposite of that for what is most like you. And then that can kind of help to give you a little bit of a more consistent response or consistent answer afterward.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. All right. So now we are going to play the 5-second rule. It's going to be super fun and obviously super fast. It's 5 seconds. So here are the rules. I read it and you've got 5 seconds to answer. You've got to give me 3 of the things. You have to list 3 things. I'll say something I won't give it away, but I'll say, list these 3 things. You've got 5 seconds to answer. And the audience, I'd love for you guys to play along. Put your answers in the comments. Some of these are RV related. Some of them are just hilarious. Hopefully hilarious. So let's play. Are you ready?
I guess so, man. I love games and I love the spontaneous challenges, so it works.
Johnny says I can't type that fast. Yeah, well, you can type one thing. So we'll list like 3 things. You can, whatever. You've got 5 seconds. I've got a clock right here. I couldn't figure out how to do a really cool overlay on the screen, guys. So we're going to do it old school manual here. So are you ready?
Okay, so I'm listing 3 things that relate to whatever it is you say.
Right. So I'll say, list 3 things that XYZ.
Okay.
And then you'll see if you can do it. All right. Colleen says, ready, Freddy. Exploring the local life says, woohoo.
Well, typical response for a D would be ready, fire, then aim.
Right. Awesome. All right. Let's do this. So first thing, list 3 things you can do when driving your RV.
Get all my work done on the computer. Listen to audiobooks. Actually watch the scenery.
All right, that was pretty close. I'll count that one. All right, here is another one. 3 things you should not do when driving the RV.
Eat a hamburger and talk on the phone. Oh shoot.
Boom, you got one. This is hard, huh? Exploring the local life says sign work. I don't know what sign means. Hit the signs. You shouldn't hit the signs. I don't know. Oh, sing.
Sing. Or sign, actually. I have a degree in sign language interpreting, and signing with both hands while driving is also not a good idea.
That would be dangerous, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah.
All right. List 3 words that you use a lot.
Okay. Wow.
Booyah, baby. She got it. Good job.
I should have said today. That would have been a good one. But
yeah.
That doesn't come into every conversation like I'm okay or wow.
Right. Oh, Jill's here. Let's Travel Family. She says so. She says so a lot.
We just had a conversation about it. She is actually my guest on the podcast this week. We talked. She is my first outside of the family guest that I have on my podcast.
Awesome. Congrats, Jill. Exploring the Lyco Life says, this is hard. Colleen says, groovy, woohoo, and fantabulous. Ooh, I love that.
Hard.
All right, let's keep going. 3 favorite things your kids do. Go.
Draw, play, sing.
Awesome.
I could go on that one.
Ah, that's awesome. All right, let me hang on. There we go. All right, 3 things you never want to find inside your RV.
Maggots, mice, and mosquitoes from personal experience.
You guys, she was so freaking serious. I want to hear this story.
Oh my gosh, this is seriously, I anticipated ladybugs, I anticipated mosquitoes, flies, gnats, any of that stuff. I never imagined maggots. We were gone for one night, and we had a full trash can, and I came home to take the trash can out, and the gnats flew out of the top. I emptied it, and underneath were maggots. I take that trash can out. The cover for the trash can, full of maggots. I pulled that out, and my whole slide, guys, it's filthy, but I'll show you right over here. This area, this is real life. That whole area there with all of the rugs and everything was covered with maggots. It was a crazy time when we were super distracted and we weren't cleaning up the house. I have never experienced something so incredibly disgusting. And to top it all off, this was the kicker. And this is why investing in your marriage is so good, because to top it all off, I'm freaking out. I really did kind of lose my mind on this one. And I don't do that normally. Bugs don't weird me out that much. I vacuumed, I took the shop vac through my whole entire house. I had just cleaned every single bit of it up. And then my dear sweet husband, bless his heart, took these. Those are Rice Krispie treats, which look dead up like maggots. He was putting stuff away, accidentally dropped some on the ground while my back was turned, and took that wonderful opportunity to scream maggots at the top of his lungs. So I had a mini heart attack, probably would have throttled him, but because of his investments, I was able to laugh and get through it. But it was hands down our worst bug infestation anything. And let me tell you, this is absolutely the filthiest that little rug has been since that point, and that's because we're on our 3.5 week of boondocking. So it will be cleaned and scoured. I will guarantee you there are no maggots that are going to get under here under my watch.
Oh my gosh. I seriously, it grosses me out. And I've heard the Rice Krispies thing, but when you showed them, it made it so real to me.
Oh my God. Yeah. It look like maggots.
Yeah.
And Nathan does all the cooking in the family. He cooked lo mein that night. Thankfully, he didn't cook rice. But the lo mein in little pieces also looks like maggots, which then resulted in, complete meltdown, children not eating food.
Trigger! Everyone's triggered.
It was a bad night.
Oh my word. Gross. All right, let's play a couple more. I know it's past 9, but we started a little late, so we'll play a couple more. Oh, just gross. I think that's the grossest thing I've heard on this show.
It was bad.
All right. 3 things you love about your RV.
Oh, my comfy bed, my comfy couch, and my bright colors.
Love it. She got that one down. Good. I think I love about my RV, I love that it's pretty small. It's easy to manage. I love that I've never renovated it, so I don't have any scars from that. And I love my comfy bed.
There you go. We didn't count 5 seconds for you, Liz, but I think that would have been longer than 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, it's been raining for a long time, so that's kind of a hard thing to think about right now.
Push them down.
All right, we've got a couple more. Name 3 national parks.
Yosemite, Joshua Tree, Grand Canyon.
That is good. I was like, ooh, I'm stumping her on this because it would take me forever.
It's the one I have not touched on yet. That's our plan for next year.
Okay, cool. Here is a really funny one. We'll end on this one. 3 things you can cover in chocolate. Go.
absolutely everything. Figs and strawberries and candy bars.
Candy bars. I think that's kind of that's like a prereq. That's like a prerequisite.
Yes.
For a candy bar. Someone says anything.
Yes, that pretty much works.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for hanging out with us and dealing with the tech problems and the rain and running in the rain and reliving that terrible maggot story.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
So, because we did so much talking about the profiles, and people were asking about that anyway, for your crew too, if you put in I love Liz, give me a few minutes to make the coupon, but put in I love Liz and you can get 25% off of those profiles as well, just as a last minute extra perk.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, give us 5 minutes so we can backtrack here and do what we were supposed to do as professional business owners, guys.
Exactly.
Johnny, I have to say this real quick. He said crickets, worms, and grasshoppers you could cover in chocolate.
You could. There's a could, but not a should.
Johnny, you're such a gem. We're so glad you made it tonight. All right. Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm going to ask you to hang up now so I can wrap this up. I'll put all those links, and it's the Mama Says Namaste podcast, correct?
Yes, that's it.
All right.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for asking some awesome questions. Have a great rest of your week.
All right. Bye, Ashley. All right, guys, that was super fun. I'm glad you guys stuck around. Thanks so much. That was fun. That maggot story, oh gosh, that really grossed me out. Usually this is the part of the show also where I share who's coming on next week, but honestly, I have no one booked, so it will be a surprise to you and me both. I've been waiting to hear back. I know it's summer. There's not a lot of people watching live anyway. So I'm going to try to get someone booked. I am going to get someone booked. It'll be a surprise for all of us. Thank you so much. Oh, awesome. Colleen says she put a bunch of links in the comments. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have all of it. Usually I do it last minute, and we had those tech problems. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week on Tuesday.